What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media. This is, of course, the yearly. I don't know what year it is now. Probably three, maybe year, might even be year four. But the pre-draft special posted the morning of day one of the NFL draft. Joshua, Rashod Bateman just got extended. Let's get some quick thoughts on that, and then the rest of it we'll talk more specific draft stuff.
I mean, listen, I know everybody was, all frantic about, Rashad Bateman is not voluntary workouts, all that stuff. But you did see the man working out. I mean, granted,
Yeah.
yes. Did it look suspicious? Did it look like, oh, he's distancing himself from the team? And then, the follow-up picture on his Instagram was him out with James Prochet, Deshaun Elliott. They were a part of the team when he was here. You can still have a relationship with guys that that moved away from the team. I mean, that's how life works. You're still friends with people that leave your job. That's what happens. So I still didn't find an issue with that. I can see if it was a situation where it was like a Miles Boykins situation where he had no type of rapport with the wide receiving core as well. Rashad Bateman definitely feel like he loved his guys in that wide receiver room. Yes, I definitely would love to see him and Lamar Lock Lincoln over the summer because I feel like that's another go-to guy for him. Especially he does have route running. He's not the fastest. I think we gave his player comp to a Keenan Allen type of guy. And, the more he progresses in the NFL and stay healthy and get those reps, the better he will be. I mean, we've seen him break down some good defenders with his route running and his skill set. I mean, it's there. The proof in the pudding, as they say, is there. We just got to put it all together for Rashad to flourish, and put him in a winning situation. Honestly, so I'm happy they're staying with us. It adds more depth to our wide receiver room, and it shuts down the door of us going in and getting trading for Brandon Ayuk and giving Mr. Ayuk a big deal.
Yeah. No, I think the other benefit is we don't know the exact contract numbers. What I've read, and obviously, I don't trust it unless it's Jeff Zrebiec or Daniel or Jamison Hensley or Josina Anderson. Those are really the only three or obviously the big guys, Rap Sheet and Sheffy. But overall, we don't know the exact numbers. But from what I've been reading, it's around $5 million a year, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe 6, maybe 7. And even if we're paying him $6-7 million, I'm totally fine if we use more money on wide receivers. You don't want to pay, if we were paying Rashod Bateman $15 million, I would not want the Ravens to draft another receiver round 1 or round 2 or round 3. Yeah. But because it's expected to be a cheap deal, he's low key on a borderline vet minimum deal. We could still get more people and take advantage of him being undervalued because how injured he's been throughout the start of his career. But this is his first full off season. I like that Eric DeCosta and John Harbaugh, even after he was critical of the Ravens, they've stuck with him and they believed in him. Harbaugh's praised him. And then obviously Eric DeCosta got the contract extension done. So, we're going to see exactly what happens with it. I'm excited to see what the numbers are. But jumping into kind of more draft stuff, I think the best way we could do it maybe is just talk position group by position group kind of guys that we like with a focus on the first round. And then I've also got the Ravens 7-round mock drafts from Ryan Mink and Garrett Downing. Maybe we could go over those and talk about those players if we don't touch on them at all. But it's weird. Obviously, guys in the comment section down below, let us know your thoughts on all these players. But let's start off with the offensive linemen. Huge, I would say if you took a straw poll, most people would say take an offensive lineman. There's a big movement towards it. What are your thoughts on taking offensive linemen in the first round? And if so, who are the guys that you're looking at to draft and to avoid?
Oh, man, listen, if I know we have watched Ronnie Stanley pretty much come in some games and play a snap here, play a snap there, and receive his check. I know we've been upset, pissed off about it. I know we watched Morgan Moses kind of give up plays as well. Um, but I think people are more upset with Ronnie Stanley more than Morgan Moses. And I understand the frustration. We've seen it a lot. We talking about a guy that was supposed to be a household name, and due to injuries, he hasn't been the same. And he was battling. He was even last season, I believe, he was still battling injuries as well. So it's definitely rough to see. Do I feel like should we at the 30th take a offensive lineman? Family, TTB family, y'all may, curse me out. It's totally fine. Do what y'all do. I still love y'all, either way. I don't feel like we should take an offensive lineman at number 30. If anything, the Ravens know how to do is pick offensive linemen in the later rounds and get guys to produce, whether they are late bloomers. You got to think about who we got um, waiting for that pretty much had a red shirt year. Andrew Voorhees, strong as hell. Strong as hell. He's been working. He's been in the facility day in day out for what was been said, about the chief, EDC and Hardball. We've been knew he was a strong guy. We've been knew that when he fully recovers, he can be a great depth piece to that offensive line because that right guard position is something that needs to be answered immediately. I guess we was on the big sexy train at one point, but big sexy needed time to fully develop as well, aka Ben Cleveland. Um, so right now, I will wait later. I will wait later. Me personally, those first 3 rounds, I would either go corner, wide receiver, and maybe edge. Um,
Okay.
because we didn't. I want you to think about this, McConnell. Rashod Bateman and Adafio Wade both were up for picking up their 5th-year option. I don't know if Adafi's 5th-year option been picked up,
I don't think it has been.
but okay. But look who got a contract extension first. Not saying that Adafi would not get a contract extension. Yes, he's been showing glimmers here, but he hasn't put in a full body of work. But for them to get a contract extension done with Rashod Bateman, who's kind of been in and out, it looked like they have. This is just me talking. I'm outside looking in. It looked like the organization has a little bit more trust and faith in the young wide receiver versus this more developmental piece of edge rusher. So those first 3 rounds, I'm going either wide receiver, corner, or even edge rusher.
Yeah. One thing to mention, I think, in my opinion, I think Adafe watched Justin Matabike last year, and I think he was like, I'm betting on myself. Because he knows Matabike. I think the Ravens offered, I think the report, it was either $12 or $15 million a year they offered Matabike before the season. Beeks obviously went out there and was like, no, I'm going to do my own thing. Has an unbelievable year. Becomes one of the highest paid defensive tackles in the league. So I'm thinking maybe Adafe's like, hey, let's make this a prove it year to try and get that big contract. Whereas I think Rashod Bateman was like, hey, these guys believe in me. Like I want to, I want to stick around with them. I want to play with Lamar, and I believe in this offense. Obviously, neither of us are in the building. Neither of us are listening to those conversations. But for me, when I'm looking at offensive line, it's not my main priority. It's definitely not. And I agree with you, Joshua. The Ravens are pretty darn good at drafting offensive line. And the reason that is, I've talked with people and messaged with people that are scouts, that are, former scouts or people in media. And one of the biggest things that they mention is offensive linemen is so much more about player development and coaching at the NFL level than almost every other position. Like most offensive linemen, you're like, yeah, we're going to have to work with them. Like it's so rare to find offensive linemen where you're like that's like the guys that go top 15 that are offensive linemen. Those are really the only guys that are like, yeah, we can hopefully start this guy day one. Just about every other offensive lineman's like, hey, we're going to develop him. And that's why you see the same teams always have great offensive lines, is because they develop them. The Eagles, Like they're not drafting top 10 linemen every year, but it seems like every single year it's like, oh, here's this, some guy just left the Eagles. They just threw another guy in. I think Jason Peters was replaced by Lane Johnson.
Yeah.
Lane Johnson's been multiple time All-Pro since then. It's like they just know how to develop them. The Cowboys are another one. They're not, obviously they've drafted offensive linemen high, but like they just develop them so well because they know exactly what they're looking for. They find players that can fit it. The Ravens, another organization that just consistently has a really good offensive line. There's obviously outliers. They had the year where, they had to sign Alejandro Villanueva, and it was like, man, this sucks. Like that was a bad year for the Ravens offensive line. But other than Villanueva, it was like everyone was good, and Ronnie got hurt. And so it was like, okay, we got backup left tackle and a right tackle that we signed as a veteran, and he just was not good anymore. And I think that was the COVID year as well. I'm not 100% certain in my memory on that. But overall, the Ravens do a very good job of developing offensive line, and they know what they want. You look at, they drafted Ronnie top 10, but, they draft a center, Tyler Linderbaum, late first, obviously ended up being very good. But other than that, right, guys like Kelechi Osemele, guys like
Edward Mulatalo, Ryan Jensen, the Kelly Bozeman. I mean, the list goes on and on. Ben Grubbs,
Zeus, Ben Grubbs, another one. Like Zeus, we drafted him in the 3rd round. Like we can find guys.
Did we go first round with Michael Orr?
Ooh, I think Michael Orr. I think he was, because remembering in the movie, I think they show Goodell announcing the pick, and
even though that didn't pan out too well.
Yeah, the movie. I don't know. I'm sorry, Michael, if you're watching.
We ain't trying to start trying
to do that. But I'll say this: if any of the following offensive linemen are available, I say you take them. Joe Alt, J.C. Latham, Talisi Fuaga, Fashanu, Fatanu. Those are the only ones where I'm like, yeah, you got to draft them, because those I think are the only offensive linemen that you can start them day one. Now it's also expected they're all probably top 15 picks. It's very unlikely that they are going to be available, which is why I'm mentioning them. I would consider drafting Amarius Mims. I would consider drafting Tyler Guyton. Those are the only two other ones that I'm like, okay, I think the value's kind of there at 30. They could be available. My avoids are Graham Barton out of Duke. I don't think he's necessarily going to be a very good tackle. A lot of people think he's going to be a center in the NFL, and we don't need a center. Like, yeah, he could play guard, but I've said it before. I don't like drafting guards in the 1st round. I don't think it makes sense. Guard is the easiest position to develop. It's the easiest position to find.
Cooper is
there's so many good guards available.
I was about to say Cooper is one of my coveted picks if we had to go offensive lineman, but I would rather get him in the later rounds. He's a guy that you can pick up in the later rounds. I think,
grab Cooper Beebe, like in the 2nd or 3rd if you want. I think Hayes out of UConn is another guy. It's like, okay, like guard play is not like a drastic change in comparison to like elite versus solid. I would not take Jackson Powers Johnson for the same reason. I don't want to draft a guard in the 1st round. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, man. I mean, granted, yes, that whole draft here with the trade into Hollywood and getting back in the 1st round and picking up Linderbaum. Yeah, I was hurt, but it ended up working out. So sometimes we gotta trust the process. I mean, granted, we always come on our show, talk our opinion, talk about who we think we should get. And clearly, in that war room, they got other plans, for the organization. Sometimes we just gotta, in EDC we trust. Sometimes, front office do make some bad decisions. They do make some bad decisions, like keeping John Harbaugh there. But hey, that's neither here or there. No, man. Absolutely. I mean, granted, all championships are won in the trenches. Believe it or not. Yes, what we seeing now in the NFL is pass happy. Defensive players can't really play how they used to play. The big Brian Dawkins hits, the Cam Chancellor hits are going away. maybe in the next couple of years, it might just be flag football with like pads. Who knows? But but until that happens, yes, championships are still won in the trenches. So, do I feel like we should get stronger at the offensive line? For sure. But don't make a hasty move when you still have Ronnie Stanley. I can see if Ronnie Stanley was not there anymore. I can see if they cut Ronnie Stanley before this year's draft. Okay, at 30, I can see them even trying to move up to get a top tier offensive tackle. But Ronnie Stanley is still here. Go get someone in the later rounds, develop him, and when it's time, let him flourish. We've literally been seeing it with Daniel Falalele. I mean, we picked him up in the later rounds. He's a big man. He's gotten the weight down. He's looking more agile and mobile. When he had his opportunities to get into the game, but Morgan Moses, was out. With Morgan Moses being traded over the offseason, that pretty much is that man's job, unless somebody else, feel like they can take over. Which I'm on the outside looking in. I feel like this is going to be his year. And I feel like, this is going to be like how Orlando Brown was, when he was at right tackle. Just a big guy protecting, Lamar Jackson's front side, going to be open up the hole for Keaton Mitchell and Derrick Henry. And I think we're going to see some good ball being played out of Daniel Falalele this upcoming season.
Yeah, and when I'm looking at this Ravens offensive line, I'll mention some names for the later rounds that they could draft. Like, I love Dominic Pooney. He's listed. He played offensive tackle last year at Kansas. He was all right. He was really good at guard 2 years before at Kansas. He's a guy that could possibly be available in round 3. Same thing with Kieran Amagagie out of Yale. Big body, obviously smaller school, but a guy that you could draft and develop and have him compete. And the Ravens love to, throw an extra offensive lineman in at, at tight end for the goal line package and things like that. So, offensive line, this class is deep. This is not hey, there's 3 offensive linemen. Other than that, everyone sucks. Like, no, it's like this. You can get a great offensive lineman here. You don't need to force it. But switching over to the next position, you mentioned it. Let's talk about cornerback next. Is there a guy that you would want at corner at pick 30, or are you staying away from corner at 30?
I mean, let's be real about it. At 30, if Kool-Aid McKinstry slides there, I got to go with Kool-Aid. If he's not there, Nate Wiggins is my next guy. Cooper DeJean, I'm staying away. It's not no racist thing.
Come on, Josh, what are you saying?
Listen, white men have showed that they can jump. So clearly, white men can now play corner. I ain't got no problem with that. If you can contribute, contribute. I've been here with the Ravens for I don't know how long. I watched Nakamura. I don't know what his nationality was, but I watched him, and I also watched Tim Zbikowski. And there we go. But either way, they say Cooper DeJean, his game is more of a free-ranging type of guy, more of a sense of a Kyle Hamilton. So, I mean,
yeah,
could you put him in a package, with Kyle Hamilton on the field together? Yeah, I can see that happening. But I mean, honestly, with the departure of Rock Ya-Sin, Ronald Darby, I mean, the corner room is looking thin. Marlon Humphrey, he's not the same corner as he was when he was younger. He still plays good ball when he's available, but I do feel like we can still use a young premier outside guy. That's going to be sticking with some of the best young wide receivers out here. I mean, we play in the AFC North. I mean, look at the Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver core. You got NFL young boy. With the Bengals, we don't know what that team's going to look like. Now that Trey Hendrickson's asking for a trade, that'll alleviate some pressure off of us.
Yeah.
You still got Jamar Chase. You still got T. Higgins. They put the franchise tag on him and things of that nature. The Browns wide receiver core, a decent group as well. And Brandon Stevens came alive last year. Shout out to him, and I hope he continues to build on that because We definitely saw the potential, and he just finally put it together. But I feel like they still need a premier guy on the outside that can alleviate some stress and pressure off the rest of the secondary and get more free range for the Kyle Hamilton, Marcus Williams to do what they do best, which is play that center field position, get the interceptions, let Kyle Hamilton roam all over the field, stick on the tight ends, come down for the blitz, in the box, things of that nature. And think so. I definitely feel like a Nate Wiggins, a Kool-Aid McKinstry type of guy would definitely be would be a better fitting for us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 100% with you. If I see Cooley McKinstry available, he's probably my number one, unless some crazy name. But Marvin Harrison Jr. is available. Yeah, you take him over Kool-Aid. But like I have him as my number one corner in the draft.
Yeah.
I think if the Ravens are looking for a player to replace Marlon Humphrey or replace Brandon Stevens and be, hey, you got to go lock up the number one or number two wide receiver on this team. If I'm looking at this draft class, I'm taking Kool-Aid McKinstry. Now, at the same time, if I'm looking for a player that I want to be very versatile and I can move him to safety, I can move him to corner, he can, try and play in the slot and be physical and, play in nickel and do all this other stuff, then I'm looking at Cooper DeJean. And I would be really happy if the Ravens draft Cooper DeJean, but I have to warn Ravens fans, if they draft him, he is not going to be Marlon Humphrey. That's not his game. His game is versatility and athleticism and instincts. It's not lining up at the line of scrimmage and just completely clamping a guy on no matter what route he runs. Like, he's a really good cornerback. And the question with Cooper DeJean is, hey, is this guy going to be able to play corner at the NFL level, or is he going to have to transition to safety? With how the Ravens run their defense, they can have a hybrid safety cornerback and utilize him all over the field. That's what the Ravens love in their defense and in their secondary. But if I'm looking for a lockdown, I'm going with Kool-Aid or Nate Wiggins. And if I'm looking for, hey, I just want guys in my secondary, like guys I can put anywhere, then maybe you go with Cooper DeJean. Cooper DeJean's, I think he's my cornerback 3 in this class. My rankings would be Kool-Aid, Nate Wiggins, Cooper, then Quinion Mitchell, and then I don't even know if it's Terran Arnold. I'm not gonna lie, guys. I don't think Terran Arnold's very good. It's probably Kamari Lassiter, who I will bring up. If he's available in the second round, you got to draft Kamari Lassiter out of Georgia. That dude is an absolute dog.
Another sleeper, Kyrie out of Oregon. He played good ball too.
Kyrie Jackson, another guy that I really like. Another guy like Cooper DeJean, where it's like, hey, this guy, like, you're just going to throw him everywhere. Like, you can put him at safety. You can put him at outside. He will not get beat over the top. He has ball skills. Like, there's good corners if you want just ballers. Now, if you want a true lockdown, like, you're probably going to have to go with Kool-Aid or Nate or maybe Kamari Lassiter. But if you want just dudes that'll go out there and make plays, and you can throw them at free safety, you can throw them at outside cornerback, you can put them on a tight end, then you're looking at Cooper DeJean and you're looking at Kyrie Jackson.
Yeah, I mean, if we don't go corner next year, it's a corner duo out of University of Kansas. I forgot those two young men names, but I think they had the most picks together last year. I forgot their names, but those some two guys look into for the next year's draft.
Okay.
Or if we see Cormani, if he plays good ball, if he finally finds a home, who knows? So
yeah. So there's definitely good options at corner. Next up, let's talk about edge. You mentioned it earlier. Like, you definitely want an edge rusher. In the first, are you willing to take? I'm going to eliminate. I don't think Dallas Turner will be available. I don't think Latu will be available. I don't think Verse will be available. I think all of those guys are, you can totally draft them. They're all going to be studs. Other than those names, are you looking at, hey, maybe we go with Chop Robinson or Chris Braswell or Darius Robinson? Are you looking at any of those guys and saying like, hey, if they're available at 30, the Ravens should at least take a look at drafting them?
I'm not going for Chop. Chop is another developmental type of guy. We already got a developmental guy out of Penn State. Sorry, Chop.
Yo,
We chopped over
I
here.
agree.
Um, I'm bringing home the Baltimore boy. I'm bringing home Chris at 30. If we don't get Chris, uh, what's my guy out of Colorado State? I believe his name is Kamara. I want him. I
Yeah,
want him in
I
the later
think he's
rounds.
looked at as I think he's round 4 is the projection, but he could go round 3.
And what's the guy from Washington? That
Braylon
is,
Trice, I think
what is he?
he's looked at as round 2,
Okay, because I know he was like a
end of
late round
round 2, so
projection.
he could be available for us.
Okay,
Day
I was
2.
about to say I know he was a late round projection as well, type of guy. So the edge rushing class this year is not the best. It's really not. So if you're a team that's in dire need, yeah, you're gonna pick up who you can pick up immediately, especially the top guys. So I mean, if
Mhm.
we're gonna add another edge rusher from the draft, because I mean we gotta see who gets cut, um, and obviously in the trainings and things of that nature. Like me personally, even when it came to offensive lineman, I didn't mention it. The young man, I don't know if he got kicked off the New Orleans Saints team, but he was such an aggressive left tackle, a strong guy. He went to one of the FCF schools. I can't think of his name. I don't know if I don't know if his last name was Strange or whatever the case may be. But he was just way too aggressive. He was getting to fights and all that stuff like that. Hey, y'all want him? Bring him over here. We need some more edginess. I remember the year, when Ryan Jensen took over for Joe took over for center. He was an edgy type of center. You need those type of dogs on the offensive line. But yeah, this edge back to edge rushers. This class is not big. If you need an immediate need at edge, a lot of the guys are going to be picked up. If we go at 30, I say get Chris Braswell. But I mean, if Kamara's there in the later rounds from Colorado State, I'm picking that guy up. Just watching him, he had a motor. And anything on that defensive line, you need to have a motor because if you can consistently, wear down offensive linemen and go after the quarterback and disrupt plays and stuff like that, it helps out the rest of the defense. Being in a position to get interceptions, getting those forced fumbles, everything of that nature. And I think that's something that we're going to miss with not having Jadeveon Clowney this upcoming season. I know everybody says, excuse me, David Ojabo is a guy that has a motor. He does, but he's coming back from an injury. I mean, I'm hoping we get the best David Ojabo, especially the best Odafia way. I mean, I'm thankful that we got Kyle Van Noy. Now we're not even looking back at even bringing back Tyrus Bowser. This man is filing for a grievance, to get paid. Hey, listen, do what you got to do, brother. I'm not mad at you, but at the end of the day, we still got to add to that room of edge rushers. I mean, we got Tavion Robinson. He's had moments as well. So yeah, I definitely feel like Kamara or the guy out of Washington will be one of my picks.
Yeah, I wouldn't if this I don't think there's any pass rusher that's value is pick 30. Like, I
Yeah,
don't think there's anyone there that I'm like, okay, pick 30, like this makes sense. I think if I want, obviously, I think Jared Verse is a stud. I think Laiatu Latu's a stud. I think Dallas Turner is a stud. I don't think there's really a remote possibility any of them are there. If the Ravens said, hey, we want to trade up but to 16 with Seattle because Jared Verse is falling and we want him, I'm like, all right, like go do that. I'm not upset about that. But like, I think Chris Braswell, his value is like mid second. I think Chop Robinson, like Chop Robinson could be great. Like I'm not gonna outline that, but it's just right now he's really raw, and
we don't need that right now.
I think we're done. We're done drafting the raw guys.
Yeah,
The only one that I see that's like okay, like I would be like, all right, that's a solid pick. I think Darius Robinson I really like because he can also play on the interior of the defensive line and play at the 3 tech and play 5 tech. And his game is built off of strength and physicality and Joshua, he's a mean dude. So
I love that.
You know, I'm fine with if we go with like Darius Robinson, I'd be like, okay, I think value wise, he's probably like 36 would be like, okay, that's good value. 30 is not a drastic change from that. So like I won't be disappointed if we go with Darius Robinson. I probably won't be disappointed if we go Chop Robinson. Like I would just have to be like, all right, guys, like we got to do it. Like we got to hit. Like this has to be a good pick because it's a risk taking Chop Robinson, another risk. But I think that edge, I don't necessarily think it's as big of a need because we brought back Kyle Van Noy. We have Adafe, who, again, even though he's not getting 12 sack seasons, he's having productive years of stuffing the edge. Getting after the quarterback in big games. Like he's playing. It's not like he's not playing. Like he's a starting caliber edge rusher. Adafe Away is. He's just not a dominant starting edge rusher.
Yeah, he's not a household name yet.
Yeah, exactly. I think I would prefer going tackle or corner. I think corner is my number one position to get round one if the right guy's there. Second is probably wide receiver if the right guy's there. Then it would be tackle. And then it would be edge rusher because I think the edge rushers, again, is another position here where the Ravens do a decent job with their later picked edge. Like their day 3 edge rushers are typically pretty solid. And there's a lot of guys with a lot of talent that will go late because I know the guy from James Madison is undersized. But again, he's undersized but crazy productive. The guy from Troy, I think his name is Javon Solomon.
I like Notre Dame, Javonte John Baptiste.
Yeah. Another guy where it's like, okay, these guys aren't going super early, but you could absolutely draft them and develop them because even if we draft, like let's say we draft Chop Robinson or Darius Robinson, I don't think they're really playing this year. Like unless there's an injury, they're not going to be a third down pass rusher. Like they're going to get in when guys are tired and they're just going to be a backup this year. How much does a backup do for you right now? Again, now, if the Ravens want to trade up and they get themselves Laiatu Latu, they get themselves Jared Verse, like, yeah, they'll start. But I don't really see the Ravens trading up for one of them.
And honestly, when we look at it, with the contract, and we have to be realistic with some of the guys that we want. And when I say that, you got the contract extension for Lamar Jackson. That, believe it or not, there is a level of urgency in that facility that this team should be getting at least 2 Super Bowl appearances, maybe a win, possibly a win, a strong win, while you have him under contract. So every move that you have to make needs to be strategic. And I think every guy that you pick when it comes to position wise, it needs to be an immediate impact. And I feel like if you're going to go edge rusher, that needs to be an immediate impact guy. That's why I said, when it came to these first 3 rounds, wide receiver, corner, edge. Because right now, I feel like those are some of the key positions that kind of hold us back to a certain degree. So that's why, I feel so strongly about it. I mean, yeah, you can talk about offensive linemen. Yeah, I just said that, offensive linemen, and defensive linemen, you win championships in the trenches, but we know how to produce. We got a decent group that's coming back for that offensive line. You have a strong core for that defensive line, which is why I may add, it's very young, coming back. So, yeah, man.
All right, let's talk about the final position, most likely. Wide receiver. Who are the guys at 30 that you're looking at? And are there anybody that you want to stay away from? And who's like, if he's available, you must take him, wide receiver?
I want to stay away from Xavier Worthy. I don't care if he ran it. I don't care how fast he ran. I really don't. I'm still, everybody. I see the people on Twitter say, "Oh, not a lot of people say enough about Keon Coleman." Just because just because you're not saying nothing about the guy doesn't mean you don't want him no more. I still want Keon Coleman.
Mm-hmm.
Lamar Jackson has not had a big body wide receiver yet. Give that man a big body wide receiver. Adonai Mitchell, another guy. If you do not go wide receiver first round at 30, you got to give me the cornbread eating young man. Look at University of South Carolina. Boy, it sounds like he even wrestled hogs all his life. And I'll take him in the second round. That is a steal in the second round. That's a big body, Anquan Bolden, DK Metcalf type of build. And he would do wonders in this style of offense, in my opinion. My last guy that I will honorably mention is University of Florida. University of Florida wide receiver number 1. I think his last name was like Pascal or something of that
Ricky
nature.
Purcell.
Ricky Purcell. Thank you. I wouldn't go for him in 30, but that would be a later round type of steal for me because I know everybody talking about McConk lad out of University of Georgia. Granted, he has the footwork. He moves like Julian Edelman, but I feel like Purcell has a lot of more upside than Lad McConkey, and I feel like he'll be a huge steal to anyone's offense, especially ours.
Yeah. I like wide receivers in this class. I like them a lot. I'll say, like you, Joshua, I would love Keon Coleman. I would love Xavier Legette. Adonai Mitchell, another guy. I wasn't the first time I watched Adonai Mitchell, I didn't love him. But last night I was like talking to people and I was like, I got to rewatch this guy. And I watched him again last night and I was like, okay, I really like this guy now. And the connection he has with Mark Andrews with the diabetes, that's a concern a lot of people are having because he doesn't put as much effort as he should be into managing his diabetes and his blood sugar. Well, how do you fix that? Mark Andrews. Mark Andrews is the perfect guy to work with. He will help you. Honestly, he'll probably be helping him even if he's not on the Ravens. He will definitely be reaching out. Mark Andrews is a good dude like that. But also, he played for Todd Monken at Georgia. So he does have that connection. I know a lot of people are like, oh, we could get like Todd Monken's receiver back at Georgia and look at Ladd McConkey. And it's like A.D. Mitchell transferred from Georgia to Texas last year. So he does have the experience with that as well. I really like Xavier Worthy. I don't know how much I love him with the Ravens offense, just because like I just don't really know. Like he's a little bit smaller, a little bit undersized. It's just having two guys like that would be a little bit strange. But it would be really fast. I'd be intrigued. I love the player. I really hope he doesn't go to Kansas City because he'd be insane there. I like Troy Franklin. I think getting a deep threat would be really cool for the Ravens. So I really like Troy Franklin. Love Xavier Legette. And then like some later guys, I want to throw their name out. Love Javon Baker out of UCF. I love Brendan Rice. Round 3, round 4, Brendan Rice out of USC. That would be awesome to have. And then that's kind of like the main guys. Where I'm like, okay, you draft any of these guys, and I can expect them to have an impact this year on the Baltimore Ravens and get Lamar an extra 500 yards receiving from the receiving.
And you know what? I gotta throw him in there, man. I'm gonna have to throw him in there. I'm gonna throw Malik in there too if he slides to 30.
Malik who?
Malik Neighbors.
Well, I think Malik Neighbors is going top 10.
As he should.
If Malik Neighbors is available, hey, Baltimore Ravens, you make that call. You draft him right away.
And listen, and that's why, when you asked the question, I didn't say Marvin Harrison Jr. We already know, top 10 guy. I mean, Steve Smith feel like Malik Neighbors has more upside than Marvin Harrison from his analysis. I believe he said that, or at least he put him. I think he either put Malik Neighbors like literally right above Marvin Harrison Jr. Like he just have a little bit over him, but not much. So Steve Smith usually when he does his breakdown of wide receivers, he he's critical, but he's real, and they respect him. He was one of the best wide receivers to play in the NFL. But let me ask you this, McConnell. What's a position, what's a player that you wouldn't mind the Ravens picking in a second or third round?
I'll try and think of somebody that I haven't mentioned.
Because we know the Ravens love to do when we zig, the Ravens zag all the time.
Yeah. Let's see here. Second or third round. I'll throw a wild card out there. Trey Benson. If the Ravens want to take a shot on a running back,
my man,
like I think it'd be a little bit crazy for them to do it, but like if they do it, it better be Trey Benson.
But when it though, let's think about it. Yes, we getting Keaton Mitchell back. We getting Keaton Mitchell back in October. So now you're telling me you're expecting Derrick Henry and Justice Hill to hold it down? Not saying Derrick can't hold it down. I'm not saying that. Yeah. But you also handed the keys over to Justice Hill too.
Yeah. I mean, like Trey Benson would be sick because Derrick Henry is the one, and then Trey Benson is the backup would just be unreal. I'm all for that.
And Derrick Henry's only going to be here for 2 years.
Yeah. That's running back is,
so I'm thinking when I think of running back, I'm thinking future. That would be my either him or Will. Either him or Will Shipley would be my two guys.
We did the same thing with J.K. Dobbins. Remember, like it was like Mark Ingram was coming off of a Pro Bowl year. We had Gus, and it was just like this dude's just too good to pass up. We're gonna draft him anyway.
Right. So like I said, man, when we say zig, the Ravens definitely say zag, and they do some things where they have a scratch our head, but it ended up working out. So I love.
Remember the Brandon Stevens pick? That was a who? We had no idea what was going on. We took Brandon Stevens.
We couldn't find nothing. Nothing. No. I think we maybe found one highlight. It was like maybe a 5-second clip.
Yeah, he had like an interception in the end zone in one game. It was like, oh my gosh, he's real. He's a real person.
Yeah, man. But it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun. Everybody that's going to the draft party, man, enjoy yourselves. Have fun, man. Have fun. And whatever the Ravens do, just trust it. Just trust it and trust that it's going to work out.
Yeah. Eric DeCosta's done a very good job so far. I know a lot of people have every year, they're like, man, he just keeps messing up these drafts. And then it's like, guys, he's not messing up these drafts. He's actually drafting really well. So let's hope he keeps that streak alive. Super excited for tomorrow. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe for more. We'll see all of you again next time.